Hi everyone, good evening. Welcome to Crystalist Live, Crystalist Conversations. Good evening, good evening. My name is Kemi Oguleye, and I am the host of Crystalist Conversations. I'm really excited to be here today, to be back. It's been a while. Crystalist, we've been off, should I say off air, since February of this year. So it's been 3 months. I haven't had a show. I haven't had an Instagram live show in 3 months. There's been so much going on. Those of you who follow me on Crystalist Conversations will know about the fire in my home in February, and after that we had to move. And so it's just taken me a while to settle down and, just moved into this new place, just getting settled. And I'm now feeling ready to get back to it. And this is the first episode since I've come back. And this is, what a way to start. This episode today is loaded. I don't want to get too much I don't want to preempt myself too much, but it's a loaded one. I'm sure it's a deep one, and I'm sure it's probably going to be one of the most impactful episodes I've had to date. I'm so happy. Thank you to everyone who's joined. Just going to give people a couple more minutes to come in, and then I see Tiwa is here already. Tiwa, please send a notification so that I can add you to the live in a minute or two. Just waiting for more people to join, and then we'll get started. How's everyone doing? I see so many new faces in the house today. Thank you all for joining. I'm trying to adjust my light a little bit. How's my light looking? Can everybody hear me? If you can hear me, please wave. Let me know. Sometimes with this live Instagram live things, it kind of feels like you're talking to yourself. So please, if you can hear me, just give me a wave. Let me know you can hear me live and that my sound is good. Hi, Sister Bomi. Hi, my cousin Wale is in the house. Hi, Funke. Tiwa, I see your request, so I will add you in a moment. Hi, Auntie Yinka. Hi, my sister Talani. Hi, sis. Hi, Sister Tokumo. All right, everyone can hear me. Okay, so hi, Faye. Hi, Joy. Thank you to everyone for joining. I'm going to be adding Tiwa and her mom in just one moment. Hi, Auntie Duni. Hi, Omoyemi. Hello. Okay, so it's 7:05. Let's start. So I'm just adding Tiwa and her mom, Yejide, once they're on. Hello.
Hi, Auntie.
Hi, Tiwa. Hi, Sister Yejide. Please, can you come closer together so we can see both your faces?
Yes, sure. Sorry. Okay, so. Okay.
Hi, Sister.
Closer. Okay, so I think that's probably the best.
Sister Dele, hi. Oh, hi. Okay, this is better.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Hello, Tiwa. Hello, Yejide.
Hello.
So much. Thank you so much. First of all, I've got to just say thank you to both of you for agreeing to do this. I think it's the height of courage, not just to go through what you've gone through and to survive and to thrive, but to decide that you're going to share your experience, your story with other people, so that other people can be encouraged as well. So many people are going through these things, and we all know we come from a society where there's a lot of stigma around the issue of mental health. Generally, we are secretive. No matter what's going on, you are told don't talk about it, don't share, don't speak. And personally, I think that's what is. I always say, a lot of us are dying in silence instead of speaking out and getting the help. First of all, getting help that you need, getting the resources. You just never know who can point you in the right direction. But also, your story could encourage somebody else, at least to make one other person feel like I'm not alone. in this. So I'm very, very grateful to both of you for deciding to do this. There's so many people in the house already. Just house rules very quickly. I know there'll probably be a lot of questions for Tiwa and for her mom. Please put your questions in the question box. You'll see it at the bottom of your screen there. If you type it in the comment, it scrolls up and I probably won't be able to see it. But if you put it in the question box, I'll be able to take questions towards the end of our conversation. So let me introduce myself quickly. There are a lot of people in the house today who may not know me. My name is Kemi Ogunleye. This is Crystalist Conversations. I am the host, the creator, and the host of Crystalist Conversations. I'm still trying to adjust my own camera as well. Crystalist, I always say, is about conversations that matter. We are a community of women and a few good men who are on a journey to becoming our best selves daily. And we do that by talking, by sharing, because like I said, I feel like, if you share your story, if I share mine, somehow we can encourage each other, we can inspire each other, and we can make change happen. Today's topic is Morning Has Broken. And we're going to be talking to Tiwa, Ayeni, and her mom, Yejide, about the mental health challenges that Tiwa started experiencing as a young teenager, which her mom walked the path with her. Her mom and the rest of the family walked the path with her, and they have come through the dark tunnel to the light of recovery, which is why I called it Morning Has Broken, because we're so grateful for Tiwa's recovery and for the bright future that is ahead of her. So without further ado, Tiwa, will you just do a very quick introduction? Just tell people your name, how old you are, whatever you want to say very quickly, and then I'll let your mom do the same, and then we'll start asking questions. So go ahead, Tiwa.
Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Tiwa. I'm 18, and yeah, I'll just be talking to you about my experiences and hopefully about mental health in general, maybe talking about some stigmas and some like misconceptions and stuff like that. And
okay, Yejide mom, and supporting Tiwa in this journey, and we're going to just share us with you.
Thank you very much. So, Tiwa, I'll start with you. Let's go back a little bit to the beginning, your childhood. What was that like? What are your memories of your childhood? How would you describe your upbringing?
Happy. Like, I feel like that would probably be the word that I would sum up my entire childhood. Just happy, super happy, like always being surrounded by friends and family. And I always had this really like massive community around me. And yeah, that's honestly what it was. It was, I'd say it was like a typically good childhood. I enjoyed everything. I was a happy child. I loved school.
What school did you go to?
I went to Grange, which I'm sure a lot of people here will be familiar with. And that school as well. Grange 2 was like a family, was like a community. Still friends with all my sisters from there now. So, my childhood was great.
Yeah. Okay. So you said you spoke about it being a happy childhood. What are some of your happiest memories? Can you say one or two, happy memories? Siblings, parents, friends?
Sorry, one sec.
That's okay.
We never get calls on this landline. The one time.
I don't think I've heard a landline ring.
I take it off the hook.
Like this?
Yeah.
And you went right there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. So that is the question, Tiwa.
Yes, please.
Okay. So I said, when you were describing your childhood, you said it was a happy childhood. So I was asking you, what are some of the happiest memories? Some things you can think of.
Probably. Okay. So Grange was great. Like, honestly, I feel like I don't really have many bad words to say about the school. Year 5 was probably my prime. I feel like I had like amazing friends that I literally was with every single day, like Tumike, Aisha, and Amide. Like, we had this like friendship group thing, like, and in class it was just amazing. Like, it was great. It was so funny. And also probably my siblings and I feel like, okay, so with my family, there was the family and there was always the extended family.
Mhm.
And the extended family was always as involved as our direct family was. And so, like, I feel like if you ever came to my house in Lagos, it was like full of, it was always full of, like my aunties and my little cousins would be here on holiday. Like it was always just packed with family. Like my house was always packed with family. And that was like a great environment to grow up in. Like it was, so obviously you grow close to all your family members. I was just always surrounded by people, and that was very, very helpful, I feel, to my development. Like, it was great.
Awesome. I see your friends in the house, some of them in the house, talking about, I see Tumike and Aisha saying 5 hours. So I can see that, you know, the bond that you had from, you know, like you said, you guys still have that bond, which is awesome. So, but you know, you've spoken about a very happy childhood, happy memories, all of that. But looking back now, was there anything about maybe your personality or your disposition, even early on then, that now in retrospect, that you can say maybe suggested that you might have a predisposition to any kind of mental health or emotional health struggles?
So it's such a difficult one because I feel like sometimes I'm like, well, was this because of this, or was this just what any child would go through, like growing up? So, but I've always been what people would probably describe as sensitive. I've always been that sensitive kid. Like, if my mom would tell you, I didn't even need someone to tell me off. Like, just give me a look and I'll start crying. Like,
Yes.
I was so emotional. I hated getting told off. You know, I was just a kid like that. But at the same time, you know, looking back, I would get really, really anxious if there was like an assembly the next day and if I had to walk up and get like an award, rather than feeling excited, I'd be like dreading it, like, oh my gosh, what if I fall? What if like, so it was this like, rather than being like excited for my accomplishments and for, you know, for this thing, I was just so nervous for the little things leading up to it.
Yeah, right.
And so that's probably when, you know, the anxiety, like, but at the same time, it's hard to weigh what was just you being a normal kid and what was, yeah, for sure.
I understand. So now I'm gonna turn to your mom actually and kind of ask, you know, because I want to get her perspective as well on, you know, Tiwa as a child. What are your memories of Tiwa as a child? What sort of child was she, personality wise? And you know, so two questions in one. What are your memories of Tiwa as a child, her personality, and was there, now looking back, is there anything that you think about, you know, that you say, okay, maybe this was a sign, or maybe this was an indicator of what was to come?
Like Tiwa said, she, as far as I was concerned, anyhow, she was happy, well grounded, happy in school. So I guess by the time you put happy in school, happy at home, for us, that was happy child. You understand? I mean, in terms of her sensitivity, which she was, you know, and she was from a very early age. Well, you know, the happiness that surrounded her, the being involved with activity in church, in school, and she was very active in church. You know, we went to another kind of community like church. You understand? So she was so I didn't see any signs, any indication, anything for me to get worried about. You understand? Other than the fact that she was a very sensitive child, and, you know, snap out of it. You know, the usual words. What's wrong with you? Snap out of it. Calm down. Yes, all right then. Okay, Pele. You know, the usual words that we parents use. And that was it, you know. So no different from anything that I went through with our older ones.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, when we were talking, we always do a for those who don't know, I would always do like a interview before today. There's something you said when we were talking last week. You said, you know, we as parents should take our children's emotions seriously. Mm-hmm. And that, you know, it's because a child is sensitive does not mean that the child is
Spoiled.
Yes. So do you want to talk a little bit more about that? You know, taking our children's emotions seriously and you know.
With what I know now, you understand, having taken a magnifying glass to with care providers, professionals, and dissecting Tiwa's birth to where she is at now, that the sensitive part of her as she was growing was getting a little bit not erratic. I wouldn't use words like that, but it was getting a little bit more intense.
Right.
You understand? And that's probably where I feel that we should have taken a magnifying glass to it. You know, okay, and then talked more, you know, gotten a little bit more involved. But because she seemed like, you know, she was coping with everything, it didn't seem like she was struggling. I mean, before she left Nigeria at the age of 10.
Right.
So up until then, she was very happy. So this is where I don't know if the friendship group carried her along. You understand?
The community she had in Nigeria.
Yes, it didn't exactly. It didn't show as much. But you know, even when she came to England, and it didn't show as much because she was still with her siblings. You know, she's one of 7. One of 3 of mine, but one of 7 in total. And 5 of them were together for a long time.
Right.
So it didn't show, but still now, I would say when your kids are exhibiting some, you know, crying longer than normal, you know, mourning longer than normal, just that emotional bit, they're showing it a little bit more than normal. This is the time for you to now, not all kids, it's not a case of one size fits all. I'm now talking about my child, you understand? That this is the time for you to now take that. I felt that we should have, and it's only like maybe the last 2 years I can say that, oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh, okay, you understand?
Okay, good. So, you know, your mom mentioned, Tiwa, you left Nigeria when you were 10, so you finished Grange, and then you went to start year 7 in England. So, and she says, you know, you seem fine, but I want to get from your perspective, after you left Nigeria and you went to start, you started boarding school?
Yeah.
What was that experience like? And when would you say that you really started to struggle or started to feel like you were struggling with your mental health?
Okay, so when I first moved, I loved it. I felt like I was on a high. Like, I literally would be like, oh my God, Tommy, we're shiny. Like, we're here. I'm here. Like, I felt like my life was a movie. Like, I was loving the whole thing. I loved boarding school. It was so much fun. I did have moments where I was like, whoa. I think it's such a big change, and nothing can really prepare you for, like, even things like, I used to be like in a classroom and look around and be like, oh my gosh, everyone here is white. Like, I was in a school in Grange, and every person in my class, most people in my class were black, and I'm suddenly in England with only white people around me. Like, that was such a massive change, and it took me a while to actually realize, like, whoa, like, I'm suddenly kind of the odd one out, kind of. Had my siblings there, so it helped me enormously to settle in. It was great in that sense. I probably started to struggle when I was about 12, 13. I'd say more 13. So about year 9. It's hard to sort of think of a clear trigger now, because it's kind of like seems like a sort of distant memory now. So it's difficult to like point a finger. I can't really say it was because of this. But that was when I first recognized that I was like going through something that was different to just feeling sad and then feeling happy. Like, it was different to other people's like normal emotions.
And what was some of the things that you were going through at that time?
I felt really alone at times, like, and I wasn't sure if it was like, I mean, it must not have been a physical loneliness because I was constantly surrounded by people. Like, I'm in a dorm with 3 other people, so I'm not physically lonely, but I don't know what it is, because then, and it's also, I feel like with feeling alone, it's important for me to clarify, like, I had people that I could have gone to, but in that moment you don't feel like you have that, and you, like, it doesn't feel like you can go to this person to talk about it. And so yeah, I felt super alone. I just felt, I don't know, I think I was very confused about life. Like, you know, I'd lost a few people, so I didn't know how people grieved, and I didn't know, wow, like, anyone can just die at any moment. Like, the whole concept of death probably weighed on me a lot, and I feel like it's not really a conversation that I'd ever had with someone. Like, you know, people are gonna die, and this is how you get over it. So that, for me, I was always just living with that, like, wow, like, death is this really crazily scary thing, and I don't know how I'm going to deal with it if it happens again. And that just sent me, at times, just send me down this whole other loophole of negativity. You know, like self-esteem issues, nothing in particular, but just in general, I guess, teenagers, you know.
Yeah. So, you know, you were going through all these things, which, like you said, you know, differentiating or starting to understand that, you know, this isn't just normal sadness or normal loneliness. There's something more, there's something deeper, there's something more intense going on here. You know, and again, I know that it's difficult to draw like a linear timeline, but if you can just sort of take us through the journey of, okay, I'm really having challenges here, or I'm really struggling here. How would you say, okay, it started this way? What were some of the things that really started to happen, or that you started to do, or some behaviors that you started to exhibit? What was the sort of journey, and how did that progress into an official diagnosis?
Okay, so it was quite a long journey, I would say. Like, it took about, honestly, years. It took a couple of years before it got to the bit where, not even now, but when it got to the bit where I was even starting to get like support. But luckily enough, actually, my family caught it quite quickly, which I'll speak about later. But so yeah, initially it started about year 8, year 9, mainly year 9. It started, yeah, mainly year 9 was when it first properly started, and then but it was like kind of, I don't want to say off and on, but I had really difficult times, and then you know, I was still coping with stuff. I was still coping. I was like fine in the sense where I was coping and
Going to school, you were doing your
yes,
classes, functioning normally.
exactly. So it was not affecting my living at this point whatsoever. It was just something that was difficult on the side.
Right.
So then when I got to about year 10, my mum sort of found out / realized that I was really starting to struggle. But it was very difficult at the time, because to get proper mental health treatment, right, you need to, I mean, it's way more helpful if you're in a stable place. And I was going from London to Somerset because I was in boarding. So when I was here for half term, you know, it was very hard for me to actually get registered with the mental health service and stuff like that. So my mom,
places, you lived in
yes,
Somerset in term time, and you lived in London during the holidays.
yes, exactly. So my mom like realized that things had gotten bad when I was about 15, and she took me to the GP, the doctor, and he referred me to a service for like children and adolescents. But at this point, I couldn't have my assessment because the next week I had exams in Somerset. So we just basically, you know, it kept swapping between Somerset cams and London cams. And so before I knew it, I'd already been in year 11. So I finished year 11. I decided that I wanted to come back to London, like for school in general. Like I wanted to be a day student and live in London. And from then, my mental health really took it started to get really, really bad. To the point where it affected my schooling quite a lot, which was difficult because I liked school. I've always kind of liked school, and I worked kind of hard to be in the school that I was. And so to have this opportunity that I really, really wanted, and then feel like my head wasn't in it, was really frustrating for me. Because I'm like, I really want to be in this school. It's amazing academically, but at the same time, I'm not even in this right place at all.
Right.
So unfortunately, it took me, you know, to actually get an official diagnosis and to get an official diagnosis and to start to get help. It was late.
Right.
And so things had already gotten to the worst before I could actually know before we could know what was wrong with me and where to go from there. It had already gotten to, the decline was in a couple of months, and before we knew it, like, you know, bang.
So Tiwa, I'm going to ask you to clarify something, and I'm going to ask your mom for her perspective on what you've just said, because I want to hear your mom's perspective. But in when you were still in Somerset, before you moved in year 11 to day school in London, were there some, you know, you said it wasn't so bad, but there were some things. Was there anything that was going on with you? Was there what were some of the maybe things that you were doing, but that you felt you had under control? Was there some stuff that you were doing that was already sort of like, if anybody knew, they would be worried about?
Yeah, so I've actually been quite hesitant to talk about this like on the internet, but I do want to be relatively transparent, and I do want to help people, and I'm trying not to, I'd been self-harming for a few years. So I'd been self-harming from year 9 up until, like, off and on up until year 11, and it had been like this way to sort of control my emotions. You know, I kind of I think I kind of started to think and believe that was what you did when you felt sad. And so it was a completely obviously inaccurate representation of what you're meant to do when you're feeling sad, but that was just what my brain, absolutely. And so that was, and I feel like not many people might know this, but with things like, you know, recreational drugs and stuff like that, you get, your brain will release endorphins. And that's the same thing with self-harming. So when you self-harm, your brain may release endorphins, and so you get like a high out of it. And so in that time and in that moment, it might make you feel better, but in the long run, it's doing so much harm and so much difference. And so I'm like, you know, having a great time with my friends at school, and having this, but at the same time, when I feel my emotions get into this is what I'm doing at the same time. And I feel like if people had, like, my mom found out about it relatively late, and that was probably like this really big warning sign that it would have been to everyone.
Thank you. I thank you for, I just want to pause there and just say thank you to you, because I know it must be really tough to talk about this openly, and to, you know, to be transparent about this. So thank you so much for your bravery, and also just for loving other people enough to be able to say, I will share my story if this will help somebody. Thank you. You know, someone says, I'm listening here with my daughter. There's so many people here who have teenagers, young children, some, you know, preteens and teenagers who are drawing so much from you sharing. So thank you, Tiwa. And again, I want to pause here and say thank you to your mom for being, such a tower of strength, because, your mom decided she was going to go all the way with you. She found out about this and she brought the strength of a mother and decided, I'm going to carry this child on my back, on my head, until
there was solution.
And so, Sister Yejide, I'm going to come back to you now to get your perspective. Tiwa says when you found out, you swung into action, you took her to the GP. How did you, first of all, find out? And how did you, what were your emotions, or what were you as a mother experiencing? What did you find out? How did you find out? What did you experience, and what did you decide to do? So many questions there for you.
So Tiwa was, I think in year 9 or 10 when I found out. My sister had called me. I'd come to London, and my sister just sat me down and said, look, I've got to explain this to you. You've got to toughen up. You've got to be this. You've got to be that. I said, what is it? Kilo Shele, what is it? So she said, Tiwa had been self-harming. I said, what is that? What does that mean? So she now explained. I said, but Tiwa is scared she doesn't like taking medication. She's scared of her shadow. She's, how would she take something? How does she do? What does she do? And that was a very tough pill to swallow when it was explained to me, So I spoke to Tiwa, I got hold of her. I think I'm not sure, I went to Somerset. We sat down and she promised she wasn't going to do it again. She explained, and I actually left very convinced that that was it. She wasn't going to do that anymore, because we were pretty close, and she's not a child. She's one child that has always been honest with her, true to herself with me. So I didn't expect anything. I didn't even think anything of it. That was it. It was done deal. We have spoken about it, and that was it.
That's done.
Yes. And then I don't know what happened this particular day. And I'm not a nosy mother. I don't check my children's phones. I respect their space. If I'm going to do anything, I will tell them that I'm going to do. And if you guys leave, I'm going to check your room. You understand? But this day in particular, I don't know what I went to do in Tiwa's room. I think we had done some ironing. I went to put some stuff away. And I found a note. And that was very distressing for me. I'm not going to go into when I say you find a note. I think that is a note Tiwa had written.
Right.
And that was very tough. So by this time, I didn't even call her. I didn't say anything to her. I called my GP first. And I said, look, I've got this situation on my hands. What do I do? This is the situation. And fortunately enough, you don't always get that support with GPs normally. But because she was a minor, they kind of put things into motion quickly. We sent an appointment to try and see professionals, and that was it. So I waited for her to come home for exit, and sat down with her. I think another brother of hers was around. Her brother was around, and look, this is what I found. So of course, by this time, it's not a case of no, mom, it was something I'd written a long time ago when I was going through a lot of stress, but it's not recent. Well, I said, I've only just found it, and there's a reason why God has made me, why I have found this at this time. Because it was under her bed. I had no business there. And I wasn't clearing stuff out, So it was just there. And I just picked it up and put it on a dressing table, and I found it. And I don't know what happened. I just opened it, and that was the notes. So
then obviously, without going into detail, it was a note, something that, she'd written to say maybe she wanted to self-harm and take it to the extreme. Right. Okay.
So we knew we had to put things in motion. This was not just self-harming anymore. This was, And unfortunately, then she was getting ready to do her year 11 exams. So O-level exams. So it was a case of having to balance the two, not saying anything to her, you know, but making sure she was getting all that support, because this is me in London and this is her in Somerset, which is about 2.5 hours away on the train. So, you know, it was finding that balance. And yeah, but.
So you reached out to the GP, things what GP set things in motion. So what happened next after that?
We managed to get an appointment later on, and we were referred to another team. And, you know, by this time, they kind of took a magnifying glass to everything, what has happened, how many kids are in the house, how many boys are in the house, you know, they kind of stripped us of everything to be sure that the house
was safe for her.
Yes, our situation was safe. And that's that. We just never kind of recovered from that.
Okay. So, Tiwa, now your mom has found this note that you've written. Your mom has set, you know, things in motion. I want to ask you, while we're still talking about the journey and getting into, you know, what happened next, when your mom has now found this note, how did that make you feel when she, you know, sort of talked to you about what she'd found? And how did the support of your mom, or having your mom in your life, in your corner, how did that help you? And how did what other support did you have? And what was the importance of that to your recovery?
So, like having, I don't know, it was, to be honest, I can't really remember how I felt at that time. But I don't remember it being like a particularly intimidating conversation. I think she was pretty relaxed actually. But she was like, I think she did get quite like assertive and was like, we are going to the GP tomorrow. Like, this is what's going to happen. And I was like, well, okay. I think when I first started like talking to professionals and stuff, I was kind of like shocked that the feelings and stuff that I'd been feeling for years were actually a thing. This is mental health. Like, this is actually something that other people feel and other people experience. Like, I didn't really know many people at the time that had any mental health struggles or anything like that. So, yeah, I suppose it was quite like validating, like, you know, to hear and to feel that you're not the only one that goes through this kind of thing. That was quite an important moment in my recovery. And yeah, having family support was super important. Like having my mom's support, because I mean, though she at the time didn't understand exactly what was going on, she knew that something was wrong, and I feel like that's like the start. That's like the most important thing to begin with.
I think as well, you know, this cloud, there was this dark cloud I could see over my daughter's, you know, everywhere she went. There was just this thing that followed her about. She had lost that charm, that spark, that she had lost. There was something that wasn't right. It didn't sit right with me. You understand? I mean, I even in my soul, when I go to bed, I'll be worried that, no, this is not the child. This is not my child. There's something not quite right. So I guess that in itself, you know, spurred me on to, okay, start looking for help, start speaking to people, professionals, even outside in our community. What do I do? You know, speaking to my siblings, you know, I had 2 sisters here. I had my darling cousin Tolani, that, you know, so I didn't walk alone. No. I didn't.
So, it's important. I want to stay on that thought for a moment because you said you didn't walk alone. The reason you didn't walk alone is because you opened up and you told people that, this is what's going on. You decided, I guess, to open up. Where for many people, and for whatever reason, understandable reasons, at that time, going through something like this, their decision is to close in. Because, so what is it that made you decide, I'm going to open up, I'm going to speak, I'm going to tell people, talk to people, trusted people about what's going on with me, what's going on with my daughter. I'm not going to make this into one secret that I'm carrying around.
Initially, when Tiwa's stuff, it didn't happen overnight. Of course, we had all the bickering amongst ourselves. I was angry. I was like, I felt guilty as a mother. There was a lot of shame that surrounded me. I remember there was a time I was in Nigeria. I shut everything down to come and stay with her. You understand? I shut my life in Lagos down because I knew that this is where I felt I needed to be. There was no way, unfortunately, I couldn't be in Lagos and then something happens and I jump on the plane to come to England. I didn't have that resources. So I thought, and I knew that the best thing to do was to be on ground with her and, try to reassure her we're in this together. That journey, even initially to speak to people about it wasn't easy.
Right.
It was not, because I was worried like crazy. I was going to be judged. By this time, I was having married, the home front was not stable between myself and Tiwa's dad. So I just felt, oh gosh, that was another thing people were going to start judging me on. So I just thought, okay, I had a good, somebody that was referred to me years ago when I was struggling, even in my own marriage, that spoke to me, that kind of, sent me in the right direction. I went to, the NHS has something that is fantastic called Time to Talk, and I went there, got some counseling myself, got some therapy myself, and that kind of strengthened me. So when this happened, I think I was in a good place to be able to, it was a kind of, okay, bring it on. We're in this together. I was in a good place.
Right.
I had therapy. So it was easier to deal with. But in terms of my network, my support system, initially I didn't say anything, but I reached out to one became two. I spoke to those people that I felt safe with. It wasn't shame, it was at this time, it was just, what do I do? So I would have my cousin will come all the way from Surrey. She'll just sit down, they just make a bath for me. I'm just going to spend a few hours with you and we're just going to chill and talk. And then, I started to open up. Then my sisters, my sons, you understand, they were very, Mommy, don't worry, we're in this together. We're in this together. We're going to sort it out. So, and that was how we took little steps. And it just, fortunately, was just, I think, little steps in the right direction. But it was
a journey.
And a half.
A journey and a half. You've said so much for me to unpack, some of the, what would I call them, themes in what you've said just now. You talked about feeling shame. You talked about feeling guilty.
Yes.
As a parent, as a mother, how did I miss this, or how did I let this happen to my child? You thought people would judge you. But the other thing you also talked about, or that came out when you were speaking, is that you were not in denial about what was going on with Tiwa. So how did you balance this, this obvious, natural feeling of, shame. If they're going to talk about me, they're going to judge me, they're going to start talking about me again with, look, my daughter needs help. Whatever it is that anybody wants to say, they should say. I'm focused on getting my daughter all the help that she needs.
My immediate support system was fantastic. You know, when I say I was probably had about 7, 8, 9, 10 people that gave me that strength. Kemi, there were times I couldn't get out of bed. I was drained. You understand? The situation had drained me because there were times I said to Tiwa, oh yeah, you have to sleep in my room. We're sleeping together. You understand? That was the only way I would have any kind of good night rest. Yes. From fear. I'd let fear, you know, when there's the Christians would say fear is of the devil. It was true because I became so afraid. I wasn't sleeping. I was binging on food. You understand? So until some people kind of reeled me in. And that's when we say, in your last in your. That's all that's at that point, that was what it was for me. I had no strength. I had no direction. It was just people. People that I felt safe with, that knew myself, knew me, knew Tiwa, knew our settings, and just thought, this is not right, you understand? And they stood, no questions asked, just were there, stood. And just, if you need me, I'm here for you.
The power of a support system. I mean, we can't overstate having a network, a support system of people who will stand for you when you cannot stand, people who will carry you when you cannot walk. And as people were doing that for you, you were in turn able to do that.
Yes.
So Tiwa, you know, your mom obviously was your first support system. You had your siblings, your parents, I mean, your dad as well, your siblings and extended family, but your mom was there for you. Well, I'll let you tell me the ways in which your mom was there for you. So I want you, but I also want to ask you, like, you know, just for the people who are listening, who are on this conversation, what were some of the things that your mom did very well in terms of supporting you in this journey? And maybe what are some things that you think maybe she could have done better, if anything?
So I'll start with what I think she could have done better. Well, this is something that's actually changed over time. So she was talking a lot about like her community and her support system. And I remember at the time, there was nothing that irritated and annoyed me more than the fact that my mom was telling people what was going on. Like, I used to get so angry. Like, I remember we were at an appointment. It was like one of my first appointments with this service. And they gave us both a questionnaire to fill out. And I look over at my mom and she's taken a picture of the questionnaire and sent it to my auntie. I'm like, Mom, what? Like, literally, can't you just do this by yourself? Like, you don't have to tell everyone what's going on every second. And I remember being so angry at her at the time. Like, seriously, like, you don't have to tell my aunties, you don't have to tell everyone what's going on all the time. Like, just keep it to yourself. Exactly.
Everybody my business.
And that's exactly how I felt. Like, I actually felt like this is my business, but, you know, obviously in hindsight, I guess it stopped me from having shame about it, because I didn't have to like come out to everyone about everything that had happened. And everyone sort of knew, I guess, I want to say how to act around me, like not to act any type of way. Like, everyone that was involved in the whole thing, like for bad and for good, they just, I don't know, they were all a part of it. And so it wasn't this big like thing where it was like, oh my gosh, Tiwa's da-da-da-da. Yeah.
So, you know, I have this child that I know is sensitive with the mental distress or mental illness, whatever you want to call it. It made it 10 times even, she became even 10 times even more sensitive.
Of course.
You understand? So I will just, what normally would not even trigger her, will trigger her if she was, you know, in that mood. So we have to be very careful.
Yeah, and but I guess one thing that I would say was not just my mom, but everyone like being there. Like, I spoke about this briefly in the other conversation I had with Tamika, and it was that a lot of my family and friends and stuff were just there, and they weren't like trying to talk to me about anything that was going on or trying to ask me, you know, what's the matter. They were just physically there. And sometimes just being there and bringing me food and doing just normal stuff with me was like honestly the absolute best thing, because I feel like sometimes when people are struggling, you feel like, okay, you need to be like, are you okay? What's been happening in your head? How can I? But sometimes not everyone needs that. Sometimes all you need is someone to play a game with you, or someone to listen to music with you, someone to sit with you and talk about stupid things. And that was what I needed a lot of the time. Like, especially because at that time, what I was doing a majority of the time, like literally all day, is like therapy and talking to professionals and doing this and doing that. My whole life was about mental health. And so I wanted every little moment that I had out of that to be not about that. I wanted to like do something completely different. And that's something that my family and friends did so well, was to just be themselves around me and allow me to be myself around them as well, and to ignore whatever was going on surrounded, like in our surroundings, and just focus on that moment. That was like probably the most helpful thing that anyone did in that time.
So they didn't let your challenges define you. You were still
Absolutely. My dad literally, he came to England for like a few months, and every single day, I kid you not, every single day he would go to the salad bar and like pick out salad for both of us in these individual bowls, and he'd be so excited about it. You'd think he'd never eaten salad before. He'd be like, oh Tiwa, look what I found today, like, and we'd literally just sit there and talk about vegetables, and like we'll just be talking about like crazy things, and he'll just bring me stuff, and we'll just be sitting for hours. Like, it was like something that, I don't know, I feel like part of me felt really privileged, because I feel like not many Nigerian dads in particular might do that, like be able to be there for their daughters. And you know, he didn't necessarily always understand. But he was still there, and he still didn't pressure me to talk about it. Like, he was my dad was great as well. He was always just there physically. He was literally visiting me every single day, and there'd be days where I'm like, I don't want to see you, Dad. I would just be like, Dad, I don't want to see you, and he'll just be waiting, and then a staff member will come again and say, your dad is still here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Dad, go. 2 hours later, your dad told me to give. I'm like, Dad, like literally. So he was always, I don't know, he's not here now, but he was always there for me physically.
So Tiwa, you know, your mom's spoken about her support system. What was, you know, you spoken about your dad, your mom. How did your friends, what role did they play in supporting you?
Yeah, so my mum said I'd been off my phone for a while. Like, everyone was probably wondering where the heck I was. And my mum said, Tiwa, call Simi, Tumike, and Foinsola and tell them where you've been. So I'd actually been talking to my other friend, Aisha, and some of my friends from Somerset. They already kind of knew what was going on. So I just called Tumike and Foinsola and that day, and I said, like, you know, this is what's been going on, this is where I am, and stuff like that. Like, and I don't know, I just never, telling my friends about it never seemed like an option. I just thought, like, you know, if I ever recover from this, then I'll tell them, you know. So to tell them in the time, at that time, was quite like a big deal. And I remember them just being like, oh, Tumika was like, oh, I thought you were pregnant, something like that. I was like, oh my gosh, like, so it was just like, it was kind of like a breath of relief, because it was so relieving, because I was like, wow, like, okay, got that out of there, like, I can actually.
And their reaction was what was it about their reaction?
They were surprised. They were very, very surprised.
They were there. They didn't.
Yes. At first, they were very surprised, like, Tiwa, you? I don't know. I think they also felt guilt. Like, oh my gosh, I should have been there for her. I should have known. I should have. But at the same time, they were there. Like, Tumike and Foinsola and Simi was actually coming as well. But they came to see me, and they were great. Like, absolutely great. Like, I know they were nervous at the time coming up to it, but it was absolutely great. It was just like everything was the same. You know, there was no pressure on the meeting. It was so nice to actually be able to see my friends. Like, my friends from when we were like 4, like, be there at that time. Like, I can't fault any of them, honestly. They all reacted so well, and they probably don't even know how, like, the impact of them being there at the time, but it was great for me.
So Tiwa, you were saying, they came to see me, they came to see me. Where were you?
So I was in hospital.
It was year 11?
This was after year 11.
You were in
Currently 12. Yeah, I was in hospital.
Were you admitted in hospital? And
Yes.
at this time, had you had any kind of clinical diagnosis? Was there a name given to this, or it was still sort of just treating you?
It's yes, but it's something that's like probably I don't think I'll ever share exactly what what my diagnosis is, just because I feel like I'm so much more than that.
Yeah.
And I feel like those diagnoses, they're great for professionals to pick what therapy will help me in the future and that kind of stuff, but at the same time I feel like I don't want that to define me, or that I'm so much more than that.
Right.
But yes, the professionals have this sort of they. And I feel like people don't realize as well that a lot of mental illnesses and mental disorders, they come under a lot of things. So for example, anxiety disorders are like, anxiety is an anxiety disorder. So is PTSD, so is OCD, so is so many illnesses like that. And they all come under so many different things. And which is, yeah, it's crazy. But I feel like sometimes people focus too much on your diagnoses and, wow, so this is what's wrong with you, and thinking that will then help that. But it's probably further, like very, very far from the truth, because unfortunately, even within the system, that you can get stigmatized further for your diagnoses, which is just absolutely crazy to me.
I mean, when I think about it, I and this is a different conversation, but you were in a hospital, you were ill, just as anybody who has a physical ailment is ill. But why do we treat mental health issues as though they're different? It is an illness like any other type of illness, But I love what you've said about you not being defined by your diagnosis. That's not who you are. That doesn't define you. You're so much more than that. And I absolutely love that perspective. And I feel like everyone who's listening, who may have this kind of challenge, or who may have a child or a teenager going through this, I think that's something that we kind of need to print out and put on t-shirts everywhere for everybody to wear. Tiwa, where do you get your strength, your perspective? I don't know. Tell me about what role did your faith play in this? Do you have a belief system? I know sometimes when these type of things happen, some it's like, I bind it, I cast it, I cast it out. This is not my child. It's not, How do you see, what role has your faith played in all of this?
So my faith was an option, right? And that's probably one thing that I'm like, regardless of what everyone, because I got so many people telling me, Tiwa, just pray, pray it away. And I was always, and I just felt for quite a few years, I felt this disconnect from God. And I could never say with my mouth, I don't believe in God, because I just can never say that. But I felt a complete disconnect. I didn't want anything to do with it. I told my mom I wasn't going to church with her. I didn't want anything to do with it. But when I chose, like when I decided to choose God at the time, it was my decision. And that was like probably the most important thing. Like anyone could have told me to pray and to read this and to read that, but if I didn't decide it by myself, it wouldn't have been substantial. And so and I feel like a lot of the time, like growing up, I felt this like pressure to connect with God on a level, and especially when I was going through stuff, I'm like, okay, like God help me. But what helped me with my religion was like gospel songs and stuff like that, rather than like physically like reading the Bible and doing stuff like other people might find helpful. For me, it was gospel songs at my lowest. And so I found that that's what I was doing at the time. And it just felt, I mean, it felt, I can't explain how it felt. It felt absolutely amazing to actually, for me to have chosen that and chosen that lifestyle eventually. And then, you know, when I was actually in hospital as well, people won't know this, but when I was doing with my friends, I was in my hospital room and I had my iPad there and we were doing a Bible study group chat. They had no clue. Only Tumike knew where I was, and everyone else was just talking to me like normal, having no idea that at this time I'm literally in hospital. There's a nurse right there, like.
Right.
So I guess that whole thing, like when two or more gather in my name, I'm there with them. So that helped me a lot as well. You know, just knowing that my mom's here, I'm holding her hand, like, you know. I remember Auntie Tolani coming to visit me in hospital with my mom and my dad. And I got my ukulele out and I'm singing a gospel song on there. So literally that was like the main thing that helped me, was gospel songs, singing. That was what my faith was driven by, 100%.
Finding, and I love what you said about finding this, you know, there's the faith of your mother, there's the faith of your father, there's, you know, that can only carry you so far. I love what you said about you finding faith for yourself, finding God for yourself, and finding strength in this, in the way that worked for you through singing, through music, and you know, having that carry you. So where I guess what I want to say now is so much to say, and it's already 8 o'clock. I still have quite a few questions, but I wanted to ask you about very quickly. Do you feel, because you know you've sometimes spoken about what would people say, what would people think, and you're here, you're still here, you're sharing your story. Do you worry about what people would think about you? Do you worry about stigma? Do you sometimes feel stigmatized, or do you worry still that people may stigmatize you?
Do you know what it is? I feel like my experiences have made me feel this level of wisdom that I've never, and it's probably made me a little bit arrogant, like I can't lie, because I feel like I know so much, like not even like academically or anything, but I feel like I'm such a wise person that, but I honestly, I'm at this point where I'm like, wow, I've really been through the worst. Like no one can tell me anything that I've not heard. No one can act any way towards me then that would be worse than how I was feeling at this time. So I know that I think if I wasn't sure of myself and I wasn't I think I wasn't being honest and I wasn't being transparent, then potentially I would be afraid of being stigmatized. But I'm at this point where I'm like, really, like I could, you know, I'm at this point where I'm like, wow, I'm really telling people the truth, the hard truth, like that. What could anyone possibly say that would take away from anything that I've said? And I can't think of anything. So you know, I'm not really afraid of. There'll always be people that talk.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, again, that's the power of being you know, open and not keeping secrets, or deciding that you're going to live life on your own terms. That means that you rob people of the power of holding anything over you, because you're the one who is, you know, you're controlling your narrative. You are telling your story rather than letting other people tell your story for you. And I do think, and a lot of people are saying it here, you do have wisdom beyond your years. You know, you don't sound like an 18-year-old many times when you're talking. And so I think that this whole, you know, how could I put it? There's a reason for everything. The journey that you've gone through has prepared you for where you are now, and has prepared you for being someone who obviously has a future where you're going to be impacting so many people. It's very clear to me. So I want to ask you, what are your hopes? What does the future look like for you? I heard you say I don't know if it was when we were speaking before this, about, you know, in the worst period, you couldn't even see a future. You couldn't even think about see a tomorrow. Um, that's changed now. So tell me how you feel now and what your future looks like. What your hopes and aspirations are.
Yeah, firstly, I think it's also important to say that recovery isn't linear, and
Yeah.
you know, there's still times where I'm like, Mom, like, I still go through times that I'm like, Mom, I can't do this, and she's like, Tiwa, look how far you've come, you know.
Mm.
But you know, at the moment, I'm going to uni in September, which is something that I honestly never thought. I didn't think I'd ever get to this point, but yeah, I'm going to uni in September to do a course that has such a big place in my heart. I'll be doing English with creative writing, which is something that I absolutely just adore, in a university that I absolutely adore. And so at the same time, you know, I'll still be doing therapy on the side and still trying to get to the place where I want to be in the future. But, you know, I feel like this support system that we've been talking about for the past hour, they're still there now, not just when things were bad. They've still been there on the days where things have been difficult, now on the days where things have been great. And that's so important, like, to be there even when things are great. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to, I guess, be the best version of myself.
And looking forward to uni and all the things that that's going to bring. You know, so you've shared a lot of wisdom. You've shared a lot of not just you know, things that you know, nuggets of recovery. What would you say to anyone, any young person who may be experiencing you know, mental health challenges right now, or just any kind of emotional health challenges, social anxiety, whatever it is? What would you say to any young person who may be going through this now?
That you're not alone, and there are so many people that have felt the way and that are feeling the way that you've felt. Like, you're not isolated in this. There's always resources. There's always people that will be there to listen if you can tell them. And, you know, I guess I keep saying this, like, don't cut your story short. There's so much more coming that you might not be able to see it now, but there's so much more to all of this, and so much more to everything that you're going through in this moment. And it can only really go up from here. You know, if you're feeling like you're at rock bottom, you can't get any lower than that. Like,
so don't cut your story short. I love that. So Yejide, now I'm going to ask you what advice you would have, because you've been through so much also as a mother, trying to support your child through this, and also trying to take care of your own mental health as well, so that you don't break down. What advice? I see your dad in the house, Tiwa. What advice do you have, Yejide, for any parent who may be going through this with their child?
You know, first of all, it's not about your parenting skills at all. This illness it's new to a lot of us. So it's not about your parenting skills. Do not feel the need that you're wearing a garment of shame. You know, that's not what it is about. You need to find that strength within yourself. And if you don't have it within yourself, reach out. You know, reach out to someone. For me, at a point, Kenny, I couldn't pray. I didn't know the meaning of God, because I felt there's a God. I've been praying and praying. I'm not seeing returns. Mm-hmm. But if I look at my society in church, they stood by me. They were praying. My friends will call this prayer. They'll just send, "Are you okay?" Just little things like that. Reach out to those people that have got your back. Sometimes you're very weak. You don't even know which way to turn. You know, can you read this for me? Because you can't even make sense of a lot of stuff sometimes. You know, and have faith in yourself? Is that having faith in myself that, you know?
Don't get emotional. Don't cry.
It's I mean, it's oh God.
Don't cry, Mom.
Oh, bless.
Is it happy tears?
Yes.
Tears,
You know, I always say to Tiwa when, you know, we're in our moment, and I say, the fact that we sit down together, we're talking, there's some people that do not have that, it's a done game for them.
Yeah.
I'm thankful. I'm thankful that.
Oh my God. Look at me.
Yeah.
Guys, get it together.
I'm thankful that
You
God
know.
just, you know, I still have, every day I'm thankful
Yeah.
that, God, thank you. She's still here.
Yeah.
You know, Yoruba say, you know, they didn't, that I didn't have to bury my child.
Yeah. I mean,
We can't say it enough. We can't even, I tell you, the people that stood, but we're good.
oh God.
We're good.
There's a dry eye in the house right now. As for all of us who are watching, I think it's the strength. Looking at the bond between you and Tiwa, looking at the strength you're both drawing from each other, how you've supported Tiwa, and look at Tiwa supporting you now. I think it's such a story of encouragement, because I know so many people who are going through this now
Yeah.
with their own children, with their own, and feeling like they're alone. So this is,
You're not alone. Even if you reach out to people like myself and Tiwa, that we're not professionals at all. You know, we're not. I've never done this. We can kind of guide you. You know, tell you a story. A friend of mine came here. Actually, my friend was here. She was spending the weekend with us, Vivian. And another friend of hers came to see her. And, he came and he just sat down casually and was saying how he was struggling with his son. So myself and my friend, we looked at ourselves and said, So I just didn't feel the need. And she was shocked when I started talking about Tiwa. And he said, okay, so what should I do? I said, well, maybe you should start talking. I said, you first drop that Nigerian attitude of get yourself together. You're a young boy. You're this, you're that. First drop that and then go back to him and say, I'm here as your friend first. What do we do? We're in this together. You understand?
Oh, what has happened?
We are in this together. If we'll take little steps together. For him to come back to me. So I referred him to a doctor that I knew of. And he came back to me and said, I went back to my son that day and I just said, oh boy, we're in this together. If you want to quit school and do another course, if you want to take a year out, if you want to do this, those just little things that you say to your child. And then that thing kind of threw the boy back and he just started to open up to his dad. And I'm struggling with this engineering course. The father said, okay, why don't you try this? He said, okay, let me finish my exams. And there's always a way. It's just we need to talk. We can't judge our kids. I've heard all sorts. I've heard people say, mental health, suicide, anxiety has become a trend. How? It's not a trend. If you go to hospitals and you see kids, Nigerian children, 9, 13. There was one young girl. She was a twin. Her twin was fine. She was struggling. So
having that unconditional love for our children, letting them know, like you said, that I'm here for you, no matter what it takes. I'm
No
here for
matter
you.
what.
And my love for you is not, it's not predicated on how good you are or your performance in school or anything. No
Yeah.
matter what you do, I can never stop loving. I will never stop loving you. So
Yeah.
I think just for our children to hear that and to know that, I
And
think
we as parents as well should take that pressure off them. We should stop putting pressure on our kids. Let's stop telling them we had 10 A stars in school when we only had 2. And if you had 10 A stars for real, if they come up with 2, tell them that is fine by you.
that's fine.
That's fine. That pressure, I was saying to Tiwa, I said, when I was younger, people used to say, oh, this person is abroad or is schooling abroad. We never knew what school they were. Now, you will hear this child is in Cheltenham Ladies, this school, that school. They don't say the child is in school abroad anymore. It is they're naming the school. So we are kind of putting that
Pressure.
subtle pressure.
Someone said everybody's daddy came first, so he came last.
Who came last? Nobody. I have so many questions. I wanna take questions from. I can see so many questions there, and time is fast spent. It's already 8:17. But I want to ask you 2 questions really quickly. 2 more questions, and I'll take the questions, and then we'll round up. I want to ask you, Yejide, knowing what you know now, is there anything you would do differently with Tiwa, if you could go back and do it again with Tiwa or with any of your children? And then what are your hopes, and what are your hopes for Tiwa, as she's going off now, flying off to uni, and becoming a writer, a poet, doing all these things.
Amen. Amen. There's something my mom used to say. There's no book that comes with parenting. You just never know. The only thing you can give your child is that support network, that support system. Put it in place from day one. You can't be, there's always this thing I used to hear, this conflict. Are you your child's friend, or are you your child's mother? What are you, a parent? Are you a friend? You can be everything to your child. You can be. If that child has to come to you first, and then you understand the lines on the face of your child. You know what it is. You know that child. When your child is quiet, it means something. When the child is singing, it means something. Go back. That wouldn't sound quite right. That song that she was singing wasn't sounding right. It's not the usual. Go back and sit down. Be non-judgmental. Don't expect anything. If the child said, you've offended me, okay, what did I do? What can I do? What can I do better? I didn't have what I'm going through with Tiwa. Tiwa is the brains of the family. Our 2 other brothers, those ones were happy to get C's and D's. Tiwa wants a little bit more, but there's no pressure. Has never been. I'm not one of those parents. I don't want pressure. I don't put pressure on my kids. But having said that, we must stand as parents first. We must stand as parents first. Not as mommy or daddy. I have to go back to your daddy and talk to your daddy. Sometimes daddies don't understand. You understand? Sometimes mommies don't understand. You understand? Whoever is the parent with the most emotional intelligence should be the one that stands and reigns, takes control. With about what, no one knows tomorrow.
Right.
I've decided that I have no control of what I can't change what I have, how do you say, no control of.
Yeah, you can't change what you don't have control over.
Control over.
I
God,
kept saying little steps, baby steps.
yes, baby steps, baby steps. And that's the most we can do for our kids.
You've done so well. So Tiwa, you are a star. I'm going to take some questions. So here's a question. I just pinned it. What are signs we should look out for in our children, particularly our teenagers? For example, would it be obvious if a child, it cuts it off here, but it says, would it be obvious that a child is self-harming? Either one of you, Mr. Yejide, you want to take that question?
I think now I can say, so that child, you know, you've seen that child wearing a thin strap dress all summer, and suddenly in the thick of summer is wearing a sweatshirt, you understand? And that child, you can see the mood has changed, you know, just in some very subtle ways. And you know, if you're not sure about anything, reach out to somebody like, how do I broach this? You understand? If you're not sure about how to express it, but it's not a case of, let me see what your hands look like. Let me see, you understand? No, there's certain things you can look out for now that I would, you know, in summer, in the thick of summer, the child is all dressed up with a hoodie and long sleeve sweat, you know, you kind of like, you know.
So I guess the short answer is you know your child. So look for things that have changed about that child and that child, that look for things like that. And I guess keep lines of communication open. Somebody says, did you have to take Tiwa out of school at any time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we did. It wasn't because I wanted to take her out. The situation took her out.
Yeah.
You understand? We couldn't keep Tiwa safe, so to speak. So we had to do what was best for Tiwa. You understand? And that was why we had to take her out of school. School was a lot of pressure. A-levels is very tough. Then because she had moved into London, she was going to a very good school, a grammar school. She got herself into a good grammar school, but the distance was a bit much. So, you know, so those are things that, you know, you look at. If the school is an A-star school and your child is a standard C or a B student, why put that child there? There are so many other schools that will let that child flourish in a more sensible environment. What is sensible for that child? You understand? Those little things. In our time, Kemi, we didn't have social media. These kids, social media is the curse of the 21st century. You understand? It has its good points, it has its bad points. You understand? That is a big problem for any child between the age of 7 and 14, especially. You may be older.
Yeah,
you know,
we
maybe
don't
older.
have time now to delve into what social media is. You spoke about some websites, and like, you know, even my battery on my iPad is running very low. But in our pre-conversation, do you want to talk a little bit about either you or in terms of what parents can look out for?
Yes.
You and Tiwa, about websites that maybe you know, parents can look out for, or things that, you know, you may, if you find your child on such sites or some things, maybe just something that can give people some information.
It's a difficult one, because especially like if you're based in the UK, a lot of like helplines and stuff like that, they are online and on the phone and stuff. So that is where you would also access a lot of helpful information. But there are also very unhelpful information that can be relatively easily accessed on the internet, which shouldn't be on the internet, like, at all. But, you know, like my mom said, like, we're in this sort of time where it's inevitable that will be accessible for your children. And I feel like we were talking about it earlier. My mom said, like, I'm not saying like take your child's phone or take your child's or your child electronics and, you know, say you're not allowed to do that anymore. But I guess it's about building a relationship of trust where you and your parent can mutually agree, right? Mutually sort of decide on. My mom called our broadband person and made them clear anything that possibly could.
I cleared everything. I did. I had to, because, you know, there's some sites I didn't know about. I was, you know, you hear about, you know, Pro Ana. There was a site called Pro Ana, and I'm saying, what is Pro Ana? And it's a pro anorexia website. There's some sites that teach children how to tie a noose around their neck. There's some sites that teach them how to be
how to bulimia. You were talking about
yes,
bulimia.
yes, to be.
Yeah.
They call that BB. Is it BB or BI or something? Tiwa is rolling her eyes here. But there are some sites that are just dangerous to young children. So you have the internet. It has its pros and it has its cons. And you, as a parent, you have that power to be able to say, this is as far. I had to call the service provider, break this, cancel this, do this, that, and that is what I had to do.
Okay. So, let me see. So the last question I'll take is, okay, this Tiwa, do you feel a lot of anger, and and on top of that, I'm going to ask you, Tiwa, as you're answering that, how are you taking care of yourself now? What do you're very self-aware, I can tell. What do you do for self-care and to make sure that you're keeping yourself, mentally and emotionally healthy?
So I put myself first. I know my triggers. I know situations that are likely to stress me out. And if that means like missing out on the family party, then that's what I'll do. And so, yeah, I try not to put myself in situations that I know will affect me. That'd be like a really like loud situation when I'm not feeling like that on this day. Like I will avoid it and I won't do it just because, yeah, I have to put myself first and I have to know that my well-being is the most important. And what's the other question, actually?
The question, I don't want to.
Anger.
Anger.
Yes.
That's about anger. So, Tiwa,
Yeah,
you can answer that in like just a round of, huh? Go ahead.
So I felt a lot of anger and like irritability. I was very, very irritated by lots of things. Like,
gosh,
and it wasn't like me trying to be rude. Like honestly, I'm not a rude, like, I'm not a rude person. But yeah, I was, yeah, anger was, yeah.
And how did you deal with that?
I guess in time, I don't know, like in time, you sort of, I don't know how, I guess in time you learn to do like, you just learn on ways to sort of release that energy doing other things, like doing like other activities, or like an opposite sort of reaction to the feeling that you feel, if that makes sense.
And that's where therapy helps.
I was just going to say that
therapy is key. So important. If you can afford to put your child in therapy, please do. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just as easy as taking a child to a specialist. Maybe a child has migraine, to see a migraine specialist or to see a dentist. There's nothing as that is so important. Unfortunately, the world we live in, people probably need it a lot more than we used to.
Hi, Uncle Larry. Thank you. So that somebody is asking, and this, I'm going to make this the last question really, is how, she's asked this question a few times, what is your advice to parents who feel guilty about their child who feel guilty about their child's condition? What is your advice?
Yes, there's no reason to, you understand? Yes,
I have to get up and go somewhere so I can charge this thing. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my iPad.
Okay.
So, okay. I'm still here. I'm listening.
There's no reason to feel guilty. That's not. It's just being. You have to now learn to be proactive. Leave that guilt aside. That guilt, it will happen. It's the natural circle of all the emotions you're going to feel and you're going to go through. That's natural. You understand? I questioned myself. I remember even one time I was saying to Tiwa, you tell me what you want. I promise you anything. I'll do it, But that's not what it's about. You get to that point now, all you need to do is, okay, moving on. How do I support? You're going to have all those emotions. You understand? Helplessness, everything is going to boom, boom, boom. But like I said, with the system you put in place, your community, your support system, that starts to ease off. You understand? And it starts to keep you more focused on, you stay focused on, and which is very important, on that child. You understand? You take, you know, let other people handle the other bit for you. And you just stay focused, because that child needs you. Right? And that you're of no use to that child if you are not at your best.
Or if you're internalizing guilt and shame.
Yes, yes, it's not going to work. And when at least with Tiwa, when she was bad, she didn't want to hear guilt. She didn't want to hear you feeling sorry for yourself. It didn't work. Emotional blackmail, nothing worked. I tried it. You might try it and you might be lucky, but it didn't work for us, you know. So I just realized that we had to be very proactive in finding a solution. How do we get out of this?
Tiwa, I'll pin up this question. How do you self-regulate when mom is not nearby?
Oh, mainly with, I don't know, I do a lot of like reading. I feel like in time you will learn, like if you're someone that struggles with your emotions and stuff like that, you will learn things that help you and things that work for you. Honestly, little things like, I would not go to someone else's house to spend the night without taking lavender. Like, it grounds me. Like, things like that are so important. Things that may seem little to other people, it's like really, really important for you. So I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of like listening to certain songs or podcasts and stuff like that. But everything is very, very, very specific to the person. And they may not be things like I said, like talking about the issue, but they might just be things that will help you at the time. So a lot of like therapy techniques that you've done in the past is like grounding. So smells, all your senses. So that sound, touch, smells, like even things like ice, which might sound very crazy, but in the time, if you're feeling really, really overwhelmed and finding it hard to regulate your emotions, you could literally like put your face in a massive bowl of ice water, which actually can be very helpful at times. And stuff like that is like, it might look stupid, but like
it works.
Yes.
So what I'm getting from you, Tiwa, is your self-awareness. You know, being aware of what your triggers are, and also being aware of what it is, you know, those things that ground you, those things that calm you, those things that help you. And also self-care, which means that you put yourself first, and you do whatever you need to do to make sure that you're healthy and you're well. And I think on that note, we're just going to round it up. I want to say thank you again, Tiwa. Thank you, Sister Yejide, for your candor, for your courage, for your bravery, and you know, and because I know why you did this is because you're not thinking about yourselves, but you're thinking about other people who may be going through this, who may need to hear. And so that level of selflessness, I just and for wanting to just use your story, your experience to help or encourage other people. People have asked where they can get resources. I'll be coming, there'll be another edition in a couple of weeks where I'm going to bring someone who's a professional to come and give us the professional perspective on this. Tiwa is not a professional, neither is her mom.
We're not.
They've shared their own story, their own experience. But if you feel like you need any help, any support, please reach out to a professional. Reach out to someone who can give you professional help, professional guidance. My name is Kemi Ogunle. I'm the creator and host of Crystalist Conversations. Follow me at Kemi Ogunle if you're not already doing so. I'll be back next week, Sunday at 7 p.m. with another episode of Crystalist. Thank you to everyone who's joined in for this conversation. I hope it's helped somebody. Thank you again to Tiwa and to her mom
Thank you so much,
Thank
Auntie.
you.
We love you so much, Tiwa. All the best in
Thank
uni.
you.
You are a superstar, super duper star, and can't wait to read all the books that you're going to write, and see what you're going to do, all the ways in which you're going to impact the world. Thank you, Yejide, for supporting Tiwa,
Thank you.
for being an amazing mom, for standing with her every step of the way, and for just and even doing this with her. Thank you so much. Thank you to Uncle Larry, to everyone else. I know Tiwa has a lot of friends and family on this live. Thank you for being a support system to her. Thank you for always being there for her. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Kemi. Thanks a lot for doing this. It's long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie.
God bless you all. Have a good night.
And you too. Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone.
All the best.
Thank you, everyone.
All the best. There's so many comments. Maybe I should, before I go off, I just want to give Tiwa an opportunity to read some of the comments.
There's been so many. I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, everyone. There's literally been so many people.
Yeah, everyone's saying well done, sending you lots of love, sending you good wishes.
Who's that lady? Auntie Kemi for Lisa Folawiyo.
I know, she made my Joe by Lisa jacket with the stone.
Yes.
All right, I just wanted to give you a chance to read some comments.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Absolutely amazing.
Kemi, there's help out there. Please, make sure you follow it up with professionals,
I'm going to, so in a couple of weeks, I'm going to come back with a professional therapist who specializes in young people, in mental and emotional health care for young people. So look out for that episode. Sorry, I'm holding my iPad in my hand now. But we'll be back next week, Sunday at 7 p.m. with another episode.
Bye.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Bye.
Oh, would it be saved, Auntie?
Yes, I'm going to save it. Okay, yes. That's the other thing. Sorry. I'm going to save this live. It's going to be on my Instagram, so you can go back and watch it. And please share it with everyone. Please do share it with everyone. You can share the link, or you can share it on Instagram, so that people who are not here today can also watch and be inspired by Tiwa and her mom. Bye. Good night.
Bye.